Okay. So once again, good afternoon and good evening to Berlin. Good afternoon here in Miami. I'm Achim Oelgarth. I'm the founder of the Berlin Finance Initiative, and we have our key event, Made in Berlin meets Miami. Miami is one of the hot crypto and DeFi hubs in the world, and Berlin is the same. And we brought a panel of experts from Berlin, and we're going to discuss a little bit. But before we start, I'm honored and I'm looking forward to have you here, Andreas Siegel, the Consul General of Germany in Miami, and we will address a little bit from the German government side on this occasion here, and nice having you. Andreas, please.
Yes, thank you. Well, thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to see you all here. And in this time of the year, I mean, you can say Berlin and Miami have a lot of things in common. For example, a very broad network of startups and FinTech experts, as you are proving here tonight. And there's also a big complementarity between the cities, whereas in Berlin, you at this time of year, at least, you have beautiful Christmas markets. You have the nice beaches here. So I think that brought some of the participants also from Berlin here to see the contrast. So it's, I think, a very interesting time that we are coming together here, and that's, I think, reflected a little bit in your agenda and the program as well. There are quite a number of challenges ahead, with just one buzzword today is the FTX breakdown and the consequences. But Miami, of course, has a lot of traditional economic assets. In particular, tourism is still very strong. The cruise industry is very strong, and this year we've seen three major trade fairs, one after another: crypto and Bitcoin fair, then the eMerge Miami, and then we had the traditional sea trade cruise fair. So I think you have to see this picture together to see what are the traditional strengths of the economy and what are the possibilities and potentials for new startups and the supporters for startups. And that's why I think networking among communities is very important, so that you can get each other's advice and have develop new ideas of doing that. I think this is the right place to do it in this beautiful venue, and I congratulate the Berlin initiators for this program. And so I think this is an interesting place to discuss all these things. In particular, I think having in mind the general development of the economy and not isolate too much. Or not to look into isolation the crypto and blockchain industries, but always to have in mind that this is coming more and more together, and you cannot really isolate yourself. Well, these are a few personal remarks. I think with that, I'll hand back the microphone to our moderator. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andreas Siegel. And this wouldn't be correct if we wouldn't have a representative here from the Miami-Dade Beacon Council, because we are here to meet the ecosystem, and James Kohnstamm is here. He's executive president of the council, and let us know a little bit what we would need to know about the region. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. So I just wanted to start just with a quick question. How many are visiting from outside of Miami? Just a show of hands. It's about half the folks here. Anybody, is this a first time to Miami? First time. All right. Well, welcome. It's my pleasure to be able to welcome you to Miami, to South Florida, on behalf of our county government. My name is James Kohnstamm. I lead economic development services for an organization called the Miami-Dade Beacon Council. We are the county's economic development agency, and our goal is to try to help local companies grow and create jobs and recruit new companies to the area. So if any of you are looking to invest in Miami, please do speak to me or look up the Beacon Council after. We're happy to help. So I'm here to share a little bit about Miami and welcome you. And Miami is the economic driver, the population center of the third largest state in the nation. So you have California, Texas. Florida has surpassed New York as the largest or third largest state in the nation. And Miami is unique. We're not like any other city around the US. We're very diverse, very international. Actually, about 50% of our population is foreign born. That makes us kind of a unique opportunity here. We have a great quality of life. Hopefully you all have recognized that as well. Yes, we like to have fun, but we're also a very serious and business-minded community, right? So with that, just a little bit about the last few years, what we've seen happening in the Miami marketplace. So a ton of new investment, new companies moving to South Florida, particularly in finance and financial services and FinTech, Blackstone, Millennium, Citadel, headquarter relocation. We've seen some real serious business relocation here, more to come across our targeted industries. On the talent side, Florida as a state welcomes about 900 to 1,000 people a day to the state of Florida. Miami-Dade County, Greater Miami, about same number, 900 to about 1,000 people a week, and we continue to grow. That has put Miami, especially in this time period kind of after those early COVID days, as the #1 marketplace for in-migration of talent in the US, so the #1 city for in-migration. We've maintained that level now for about 2 years, somewhere between 1 and 3. We kind of bounce back and forth between a couple other communities, but huge demand in the talent opportunity for South Florida. These people are coming from New York, from California, from Chicago, and others, and that is really changing the landscape of our community. Also, there's been a flight of capital too to Miami. So this includes a lot of venture capital. We have some that have relocated themselves, Andreas and Horowitz Founders Fund, that are here, some close by, but also big investments into our local startup community. So 2019, 2020, 2021, we continue to raise the bar, in some cases doubling year over year. Last year was almost $6 billion of capital investment raised in South Florida. A lot of those, financial services, FinTech led the way, health tech number 2. And then just this year, kind of bucking national trends, where we've seen some tightening in that market. South Florida raised just $500 million in 1 month, and just in the month of September. So really excited about where that's going. Finally, we are the most recovered economy in the last few years within the United States, driven a lot by our airport and our seaport. So our airport, Miami International, some of you probably flew in through MIA. We're about to hit 50 million passengers. That's going to be a record year for us. The #1 airport for international passengers in the US. So that's more than LAX or JFK, right? #1 for international freight, and that's been something that we've maintained for a number of years. On the seaport side, of course, we're a tourism, cruise community. We are the #1 passenger port in the world. There we go. #1 passenger port in the world. The cruise capital of the world. That industry was hit very hard in the last few years, but coming back super strong. And our cargo has increased 18% year over year. So a lot of great numbers, a lot of great trends happening for our community. So I welcome you here to South Florida. I hope you enjoy your time, your visit here. I know you have some great panelists, some friends in the audience, so you're gonna have a great conversation. And thank you very much for listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I learned already a lot. May I ask a question here? How many of you have been to Berlin? So raise your hand. Wow, that's right. And like many times or only once? Somebody has been there only recently? No. So I think there's a good connection between the two communities. And I have now this year, because there are so many cool people we have invited, and I'm happy to have from Miami on the panel Ralph Quintero from Daily Ralpha. We have Michelle Epps, founder and CEO of Web3 Equity. Gianni Di Altera, the co-founder of Miami NFT Week from Venture and JPEG Morgan NFT Community, and Magdalena Kala, founder and general partner at Double Down. Give them an applause. Thank you very much. And from Berlin, we have also some experts here. And first of all, there's Lena Hanna Nussbaum. She's founder and CEO of Yes My Love. Peter Groskopf, co-founder of Ultimate. Martin Kenzel, co-founder of Centrifuge. Patrick Hansen, director EU Strategy and Policy at Circle. And very interesting, Christoph Iwaniez, he's CFO and managing director of former Nuri. He might tell you a little more about it. Julian Grigon, managing director at Solaris Bank. And Christopher May, co-founder and co-CEO at Finoa. And my wonderful colleague Jakob Zwiers from the Berlin Partners, the innovation manager. And this wouldn't be possible here if we wouldn't have Alexander Daamen. He's the head of the Berlin Finance Initiative USA. Alex, you will have the floor after me. So thank you very much for organizing this with a wonderful team of Charlotte Barr of the Berlin Business Office in the US. And together with Christian Busch, he's almost a Miami native. And of course the team of Solana Bay for this wonderful space here. And this is special. It gives me a feeling a little bit like Berlin. I'm thinking about what is cooler, Berlin or Miami. Definitely I like the weather better. And I have to admit, I have a cousin here, and he gave me the opportunity to have a little jet ski ride the morning already. I mean, this is impossible in Berlin. Yeah? So thank you very much, cousin Alexander Reuss. And thanks, of course, to the event forces and photo and video people. And I think there are so many thank yous now. I'm looking forward to tell you a little bit more about Berlin and our ecosystem. How is it? This is also for you from here in Miami, some marketing for the city. And Alexander, are you ready? Alexander, are you ready for some intro? Please, have the floor here.
Always organizing in the back. So, yeah, thank you, Achim. Thank you for all of you coming up here. This is Daniel. He's the like the general manager of Solana Miami. Yes. Can you tell us a little bit about the space and how to get a nice NFT there?
Yes. Hi. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for coming today. My name is Daniel. I'm the general manager here. So when you came in, you might have scanned one of our iPads to get the NFT. That's the NFT for the event today. So make sure that you find one of our ambassadors. Jackie, I have Phil over there, Nick, and Raphael. So this space is obviously an educational space for the community, for the entire world. We're here, we have a bunch of different partners in stores, such as MonkeyDAO, we have Solana Pay, portals. All these tutorials are here to educate the public, people that don't know much about Web3, Web3 technology, about blockchain technology, and of course, crypto, right? So everything you see around you as well is for sale. It is 50% off if you use Solana Pay using your Phantom wallet, and then an additional 20% off of all of our apparel. So we definitely want you to spend your money here. That'd be great. We appreciate the support. Christmas is right around the corner as well. So let us know if you have any questions, and we'll be here to help you guys throughout the space. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Actually, amazing space. Amazing. All right, so I want to make it really straightforward today. The clicker, there's no clicker. There's the virus protection expires soon. Okay, so Daniel. Anyways, so we're gonna have like a short introduction to the Berlin Web3 landscape, so to see like what's going on in Berlin as well. We have Jakob here as well, who will tell a little bit about Web3 in Berlin. After that, we're going to have like the first panel about the NFT and a short break. And after that, we are discussing a little bit how Web3 should be involved, like in the light of recent developments. So this is actually the agenda. We're going to do it really straightforward, not long moderations. I really want you to have like an insightful afternoon and also a great opportunity to mingle with our amazing startups from Berlin who come over the Atlantic just to see what's going on in Miami. So it's great if you could approach them in the end and also in the next days, weeks, years, whatever, and really foster a partnership between Berlin and Miami and connecting those two really great Web3 ecosystems. So those are the names, great personalities, great companies. You're going to see them on stage later. So please feel free to just approach them and have a good talk. All right, so Berlin Finance USA, what is this actually? So Achim and I, we initiated this Berlin Finance USA, actually the transatlantic arm from Berlin, from the FinTech scene to the US. And we call this program FinTech Leaders, hence the name of this event, if you wondered. And it's actually us with the Berlin Business Office, and we created this initiative or this transatlantic network to really advance Berlin FinTech really as an emerging #1 European Union FinTech hub. So it's really important, and you know that USA, it's #1 in FinTech, not only in funding, in partnerships, everything that's going on, innovation. So it's always great to have a good conversation and have like actually a nice matching with you guys as well. So everything what we're going to do within this initiative, we figured out we want to visit those 4 locations because we find them really distinct and characteristic. You know, like Miami is now Web3. Before we went to Atlanta and New York on the great journey, it was like a couple of weeks ago. Was really a nice trip. We created strong memories there, so hopefully we create strong memories here now and actually exceed the expectation of that trip or exceed the success of that trip. So, what is Berlin FinTech doing, or what is going on in Berlin? So, actually, Achim already asked the question, who has been to Berlin? But Berlin is really diverse. It welcomes everyone. We are not only the greenest city, we are not only a thriving city, we have the best nightlife, right? I heard Miami is also good in partying. Oh, someone is nodding there? I don't know. What? Okay. If you agree, I'm not. So, but startup, what makes really Berlin a strong ecosystem? After the fall of the Berlin Wall, some things went really slowly. You know, in the beginning, the old capital in Bonn was still there, and things are, a bit slow in the beginning. But with the .com era, with Zalando, one of the biggest e-commerce platforms in Germany and in Europe, everything accelerated a little bit. So with the venture building era and Rocket Internet, great companies emerged like HelloFresh out of those venture builders, and I think that's the era which makes it really a strong ecosystem in Berlin, going from this really venture building mindset, I believe. So now we are really diversified. We have many, many unicorns in Berlin, many exits, and with N26, our biggest fintech in Germany. So just some figures here. I'm not going through all of them, but you're going to see them. So we have more than 4,000 startups. We are still growing tremendously strong. So with more than 600 startups, which is a great rate. So every year, a lot of people from all over the world coming to Berlin just to found and getting into startup building. We are actually #1 in total inflow of venture capital, which makes us really proud and shows how strong the ecosystem is right now. So we are a popular hub. We are really international. We have more than 80,000 jobs created. in the startup sector or scene. And I believe 37 employees per startups or FinTech startup, which is a great average, I guess, which shows how strong also the FinTech ecosystem in Berlin is. So we had a really bullish year, 2021, I think everywhere in the world. So in that year, we got 50 more new unicorns just from Berlin, and 4 of them are actually from the FinTech, which is great. And we have Solaris here as well, Solaris Bank, and as you heard, there's someone from Solaris Bank here as well today, and also Peter Groskopf, who is the former co-founder and the CTO of this bank, which makes us really proud that they came over with us here to speak with you guys and to mingle with Miami. So startup scene in Berlin is really thriving. So 6 out of 7 German FinTech unicorns are from Berlin. We have, you see, like more than 38% of German FinTechs are based in Berlin, which makes us really proud. And you see like how concentrated the FinTech scene is on Berlin. Okay, so this was like a little bit about the FinTech and what makes like Berlin special in terms of startup. So Jakob, please come up and tell us a little bit about what's going on in Web3 there. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Hello, hello. My name is Jakob Zwiers and I'm from Berlin Partner. Berlin Partner is the business development agency of the city of Berlin, and what we do is help companies to come to Berlin if they want to move to Berlin, or if companies are already in Berlin, we help them to thrive with our services. I can show you some of them later. And I'm the innovation manager of the innovation field of blockchain and IT security. And this is also the reason I'm here today, and I want to present to you maybe the context of DeFi in Berlin. This is also the context of blockchain and Web3 in general. So I want to give you some glimpses into the ecosystem. This is actually a no-brainer. As you all know, over the last years, blockchain, or with the very first application of Bitcoin, has much diversified itself. We find now use cases in the field of NFT, machine-to-machine interaction, DeFi, SSI, a lot of cryptocurrency, all this stuff. And you can also find it represented or reflected, mirrored in Berlin in all these use case fields, so to say. So we have a lot of blockchain Web3 applications when it comes to mobility, for example. Supply chain is a really big topic in Berlin. InsurTech, FinTech is one of the largest and is becoming even more bigger in Berlin. We have use cases in energy and all these fields. So if you want to know more about specific topics and use cases within these fields, I can also give you some more examples and details later. If you also want to have these slides later, because I put a lot of information in it, links, so you can also check it by yourself. So what I really recommend, for example, are these 2 very recent reports. German blockchain report by CVVC, or the study of the German blockchain market landscape by Birdchain. This came up last year. And if you also want to check more in detail what startups are in Berlin, to give a more in detail view, then you can also have these links above there. So Birdchain is a big blockchain network in Berlin, and they have own database of blockchain and Web3 companies in Berlin. And also we have a really cool tool calling the Startup Map Berlin, where we can also list, and you can also filter yourself special topics like crypto and climate, for example. So just to give you information to get in more detail if you want to in Berlin. There's also a really packed slide, so you can also have it later. All these things are links, so you can just check it. So the Berlin landscapes encompasses a lot of different institutions. So we have like networks like Birdchain, we have places full node, we have hubs, accelerator spaces like the W3 Fund, the CV Labs, BCP Labs. I don't want to read them all out, but just to give you a glimpse, we have also special focused projects for female founders, communities like Crypto Girls, She-Chain, W-Lounge, FinTech Ladies. So we have, I don't know, everything for everyone actually. We have also, when it comes to education, a lot of institutions from higher education, like the DBU, the TU Berlin, a big university, or the HTW. These are also universities that are specialized on these blockchain topics and also educate the younger generation to come, the next blockchain developers and so on. So yeah, check them out. And Berlin is also famous for important blockchain events. So if you find the Berlin Blockchain Week in early September to mid-September, usually. We had this year the first time after COVID that it was again in presence on site in Berlin. I was really lucky about that. And within the Berlin blockchain conference, we also have the Blockchain in Use conference. This is organized, for example, with Birdchain and Berlin Partner. So you are really invited next year to come there. And we have also a lot of other events that I'm really looking forward to. For example, this year we had the first NFT Berlin, where we're equivalent to the NFT NYC. So next year we also plan to have this also in 2023. We have also a new one coming up, Best of Blockchain, just to give you a hint on that. And also the topic of NFT is becoming bigger and bigger in Berlin, so we have new communities there, for example, the NFT Club Berlin or NFT Lab Berlin. So a lot of information, so I can give you the slides later, but I think this gives you a glimpse of what is going on in Berlin. This is almost a lot. And yeah, just discover more if you want to reach out. Berlin is also a city where politicians are not that far away, so this is also nice to know that you can actually have a talk with them from time to time. We have associations in Berlin like Bitkom, or we can also reach out. Actually, they are in Hamburg, but to the Blockchain Bundesverband, this is the Federal Association of Blockchain in Germany. And Berlin Partner, and with my person, we also have specific activities when it comes to Web3 and blockchain in Berlin. You can also check out our image film. We have an own campaign where you can check out stories and specific use cases. Yeah, we have also big showcase projects that is funded by the German Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate. And yeah, you can also check this out if you're interested. SSI, I think especially for DeFi and for finance topics, security issues, especially for identity management, are also hot topics, and maybe this should be also combined in a more way in the future. And last but not least, Berlin is not only a big city when it comes to blockchain itself. Berlin is a city of networks. So what is a big advantage of Berlin? That all these networks can find each other. So you have also big networks when it comes to artificial intelligence, to IoT, to virtual reality. And these are all emerging technologies that evolves and develop also together in relation to each other. So you can also have this in Berlin to find not only one network, so a lot of networks in Berlin. And we also, when we come to Berlin Partners, we actually cover the ecosystem or the economy of the city of Berlin. So you find all these topics and possible the application fields of blockchain when it comes to mobility, when it comes to energy, when it comes to health. So we can also help you, for example, if you're interested to come to Berlin in general, to get in contact with specific partners from these application fields like health or mobility. Okay, these are our services. You can check them later. But what we do in general is that we help you if you want to find places, find connections for your projects. If you're looking for funding schemes, we have also a brand new service about sustainability. So we help you to get on track when it comes to sustainable transformation. And we also help you with the internationalization. So this is also part of here that we know each other from several ecosystems all over the world. Yeah, you can get into contact to me. These are all my contact points. So nice to be here, and looking forward for our discussions.
Thanks. Thanks, Jakob. All right. So that was the introductions. Let's get into the first topic, first panel. And it's going to be about NFT and Web3, enabling new business models and application. Ralph, hi.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good to see you.
Good.
Thank you. You took a fair check.
Yeah, you know that I like the chair. Hi, welcome. Is it all the way?
And where's Julian? Oh, there he is. It's amazing to see so many faces gathered here among two cities that are leaders in technology and Web3 in the NFT space. So I'm excited to be joined by an awesome panel for a discussion this afternoon, all about the future of NFTs, the future of Web3, where we're going. And one of the things that I love about Web3 is the community aspect of it. So the fact that we're all here together building community in real life, not on Zoom, not in some metaverse, is awesome. But we do want to talk about some of those applications. But before we get started, I think we should go and do a couple of intros. My name is Ralph Quintero. I am the founder of the Daily Ralpha. It's a little newsletter that goes out every day. It's a quick read, a quick update of what's going on in the NFT space. As of this morning, it went out to just under 70,000 people, which is mind-blowing to me that it's reached that level of impact. And it only could happen because of Web3 and because of the support of a lot of people in here. But I've learned a lot in the process. I've made great friends, become part of amazing communities. I'm also the head of community at Crypto League, a local Miami startup. And I guess technically my role at JPEG Morgan is Chief GM Officer, because I kick off the day in that group. But we'll start at the end. Michelle, welcome.
Thanks, Ralph, and thank you so much for my favorite chair. So kind of you. Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle. I am the founder and CEO of a company called Web3 Equity. We are an educational community that is focused on onboarding more women into the Web3 space and engaging our male allies. We are purposely not called women in anything or female in anything because we all play a role together in thinking about gender equity. And I'm so grateful to male ally peers that I have that are part of that work. As the founder of Web3 Equity, we started hosting events locally that caught the attention and support of our local mayor of Miami. And we launched an NFT collection to really expand the impact of that education. And we named that collection in honor of the mother of Miami. So fun Jeopardy fact for anyone here. Miami is the only major US city that was founded by a woman. So in 1892, Julia Tuttle purchased 300 plus acres of land here in Miami and established what we now sit in as the city of Miami. So we honor her with our NFT collection that is really focused on breaking barriers, and the same way that she came into a new space, defied the odds, created something out of nothing is what we in the community are doing in Web3. Presents an opportunity for builders, and we're educating and onboarding folks to then make their moves into Web3 and build.
Amazing. Lena?
Yes, hello. My name is Lena, and is it working? Hello. Yeah, my name is Lena. I'm from Berlin, and I'm the founder of Yes My Love. Yes My Love is a fashion brand, and we produce timeless pieces in Portugal and in Italy. So, and 1.5 years ago, I heard the first time about NFT blockchain, and I was thrilled at this moment, like from the beginning. And I said, okay, I want to learn more about it, and also my team. But I mean, the first time they said, okay, I don't know, Lena, are you sure? What is this? So I said, yes, let's do something, let's start to learn it, and let's see what we can do as a Web2 brand, built in, founded in Web2. What can we do? What are the opportunities for us in Web3? What can we do with an NFT? And so, 1.5 years ago, I had my first touch point with that,
Yeah, hey, my name is Julian, or Julian in English. I call myself a big crypto enthusiast. I today learned that I'm not an OG yet, because OGs have been in crypto before 17. I'm only in crypto since 17, but at least I'm a multi-cycler, which is something, I would say. So in Berlin, I'm so also from Berlin, working at Zwiers, the company that you saw right at the corner with a 4-year-old logo, so we have to talk about that. And what do? We are basically a full bank, so we have a full bank license, we can issue credit cards, but we can also do crypto custody. And that's an important thing, right? We learned. and also...
When done right.
Sorry?
When done right.
Exactly. So we do not do anything with the funds, not even staking, which is also a little bit of a shame, but at least we don't touch them, right? They just are in our custody. And also we do crypto brokerage. And with all this stuff together in KYC, you have basically a full suite. But what we don't do is offer that to customers directly. We do that always via this B2B2X model. And that means that basically we want to enable anyone to offer crypto and financial services to everyone. That means brands like Nike, Uber, or Samsung, like they do it in Germany, that's one of our partners, they don't have a license for, be it credit card issuing, loan generation, banking, or crypto, but with our helps, they can do it. That's our mission, drive digital asset adoption, and in Zwiers, I'm responsible for the crypto stuff. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gianni D'Alerta. I was born and raised in Miami and have seen this area go from nothing to sitting here, which is kind of crazy. And as I was driving, I was talking to my friend. I had an office there, and there was no one else in this area. It's really amazing how Miami has grown. But I've been technology and marketing pretty much my whole life, my whole career. I started working for a company called Alienware. It was a high-end gaming computer company from 2 Cuban guys from Hialeah who sold their company to Dell, and the rest is history. But there was really not much going on in Miami during that time. And in 2014 or 2013, I got really deep into crypto. I did it as commerce. We're going to be talking about commerce, and I don't talk about this too much. I created a website called 51 Attack, where I tried to demonstrate that I didn't need to actually go into fiat currency to create a closed ecosystem. So I would make these shirts. This is before on-demand printing. I put it out there. I would accept 47 different cryptocurrencies. I found somebody in California who would print the shirts with this crypto. I would auto-trade it to Bitcoin, pay him, and then use gift cards from a website called Gift to buy crypto, because you couldn't buy crypto
Not
easily.
shady at all.
And he would give me 10% more because that was his margin to get the crypto. So I never touched fiat. And because of that, I kind of have like a little fun story. I was selling t-shirts from the trunk of my car during the blockchain conference of 2014. And my friends from New York said, hey, the guys from Ethereum need some t-shirts. Do you think you can help them? I'm like, I'm a Miami guy. I'm going to say yes. So I showed up. And that's where I met Anthony Diorio, Vitalik, Charles, everybody, and I became part of that crew. Nowhere near what they did, but I was part of Ethereum early on. And then later in 2017, went to work with Anthony Diorio at Jaxx Central, which was the first multi-cryptocurrency wallet. And that's when NFTs happened. I was excited about it. He's done more than I did, but I started creating a little list as well. It was like 100. He's got a couple thousand, I would think, right now in his directory. But and then we went into crypto winter. And in Miami, there's no crypto anything. We have friends in the audience that will attest to that. So I had to get back to doing what I do, which is marketing. And then 2020 rolled around, and everything just started blossoming. I launched Miami NFT Week, which was this year. It was a conference with more than 4,000, 5,000 people who showed up. Mayor Zwiers kicked off Miami Tech Month from my conference. And I co-founded with 2 amazing individuals. One is Ted Lucas, who's the founder of Slip Inside Records, which is a local hip-hop label. And the other person is Eric LaPaglia, who's been in the finance world forever. So that's my story. Plus, we do have a little community among some people here called JPEG Morgan, not to be confused with JP Morgan, where we buy and trade and talk a lot of stuff about NFTs.
Beautiful. So, incredible panel. Happy to have folks of this caliber up here with me. So we think back to last year, about this time, definitely not anywhere near a crypto winter. everything was pumping. Our bags were pumping. ETH was over 4,000. We were getting, like every day we were getting offers, like 6-figure offers for our PFPs. Long gone are those days. The PFP game I don't think we'll ever see in that regard. But we have seen NFTs and Web3 evolve in a significant way over the last 12 months. Across many different industries, many different verticals. And if you think, like traditionally how technology specifically advances, it's usually led by the porn industry. It's not a joke, but it is, right? Like they were ahead of the curve in video, they were ahead of the curve in streaming, in all different in website technology, all different kinds of things. But they are not clearly leading the way in Web3. But who is leading the way in Web3, which is quite surprising to me, is fashion, right? I think we've seen so many advances in fashion, so many different fashion houses exploring the metaverse and trying new opportunities. So with that, I think, Lina, I'll start with you. We're definitely seeing this. You're in the space. What are you seeing in terms of like NFT adoption? How are you using it? And where do you think we go from here?
So for the fashion industry, I see a lot of opportunities. For example, for maybe luxury brands, what about certifications? So, I mean, with an NFT, you can prove it, but you can really fake it when you just write it down on a paper, so the NFT then is approved. So also transparency. So greenwashing is a big topic in the fashion scene. So you can have the whole supply chain on an NFT. Definitely community building. This is actually what we are doing now. We are planning. This is a big theme for us. We are built in the Web2. We are social media, so we have already a strong community, and every brand which has a strong community with social media can now go into Web3 with NFTs, and then they can even build more. And then you can play around what we are now doing with phygital and digital products. So we just launched 2 weeks ago a bag which comes with an NFT. So, but now we have the problem, so my community is Web2, they don't have a clue about NFTs, okay? So we all know here about NFTs, blockchain, but there are a lot of people out there who don't have a clue. So when I started like 1.5 years ago talking about NFTs, they were like, okay, what's wrong with her? What is this? So but it was really, it was cool, to take my community, my customers by the hand and now bring them into Web3. So what we're doing, we're selling the bag and we are minting an NFT, the digital piece of the bag, on a card, and we send it with the bag. So you get the bag, the card, you put the card on your phone, then an URL opens up, and there you see the digital twin. So this is the first step. So now they have their first NFT. They're proud. They can go around. They can show it. Hey, look, my favorite fashion brand, Yes My Love, just sent me my first NFT. So, and then now, I mean, step by step, we can do a lot of things like whatever airdrops, and you know what we can do then maybe lifetime. Like vouchers and all this kind of stuff, yeah. So I see really a lot of opportunities for fashion brands, but now we need the mass adoption. I see, of course, some luxury brands, they're already now playing around with it. But in my case, like maybe smaller brands, startup brands, they're like always, they don't really know. But I hope that they see me maybe in Germany and they will adopt this.
What's been the biggest lesson you've learned in deploying your first NFT project for your customers? Were they receptive to it? Were they surprised? Were they excited about it?
They were surprised and they were excited. So really, like a lot of our customers, they said, okay, I buy the bag because I like it, but I'm also super excited about this NFT theme. I don't know, they don't know about it. So they are like really, they wrote us, so I'm very, happy about this.
And from a technical perspective or a finance perspective, was it a challenge to launch it? Is it something that you did in-house? Did you go and find a local resource in Berlin?
Yeah, of course, I did not by myself, so I have a team for that. So thankful I have a good friend of mine who's now also investing in my company, and he is in the business for a couple of years, so he took me by the hand and said, okay, we are doing this and that, and so I have someone, of course, who's doing this for me, but I understand it and I want to learn about it even like every day even more.
Perfect. So Julian, shifting gears a little bit, you oversee digital assets at Solaris Bank. How do you see NFTs as an asset class? Have you seen it shift over the last couple of months? And from an investment perspective, how should we be thinking about it? And then you mentioned in your intro that you focus a lot on B2B. How should companies be thinking about it as well?
Yeah, good point. So we think that for sure corporates need to have an expert for, like you had your friend who's introducing you to companies who have the licenses and so on, and as well as in your case corporates need that as well. So for example, what I know is that not every corporate is planning on dropping the NFT right into the end user's wallet, but sometimes they also want to keep some for themselves, and not all of these users are maybe familiar with the wallet. So in this case, you would need custody, and custody is a difficult topic. We all learned that the hard way. Even I had some funds in FTX locked up. Like I was able to get the most of it out, but for the latter ones where I did not set up the self-custody wallet, it was too late. So these are things that will be important also in the future. Even though I, as not an OG, but multi-cycler, really endorse everyone to use self-custody. And you need, especially for corporates, a strong partner, a regulated partner. And I think this is a role that needs to be fulfilled. And now looking into, for example, what I think is very interesting. I was here 2 days before with the nice guys from the Solana spaces here, and I did the quest, and I did all these thingies here where you in the end gets $10 USDC dropped into your wallet. Then I wanted to buy a sweater and some socks, so I needed more. So what did I do? I opened Binance, I logged in, then there was a pop-up, hey Julian, you're German, and you are in the US now with your IP address, you can't open up Binance. So first of all, via the app, it did not work because I don't have a VPN app on my, I know it's nitty gritty, but it's exactly, I want to lead you through this pain point, which because it's just like, it's a mess, it's still a mess. So what did I then do? I had my MacBook with me. With my MacBook, there's a VPN client from Solaris, from my company. So I switched it to Netherlands or Germany, so then I could enter it. I did 2FA with my app, logged in, then I bought with Euro. Luckily I had Euro on the rails, right? If you don't have, you would have to do a SEPA and ACH, a wire transfer, wait another 3 days until your funds, the fiat funds are on the change. It's a mess, right? You're laughing, you know, we haven't solved it yet, right? So what's the next step? I swap it to Solana, I do an on-chain transaction. Luckily that works because Binance in fact is processing withdrawals, right? A lot of Binance FAT going around at the moment, but that was a non-issue. Then the funds I received on Phantom, I swapped that with the DEX into USDC, bought my stuff. So the experience here was amazing. The experience once the funds are in the app is amazing. It's really cool what Phantom, what MetaMask, and also what Peter is doing, right? Really end customer products. But funneling the stuff into crypto, bring your funds, bring your assets, bring your money on chain. No matter if you want to buy an NFT or a crypto token, like a fungible token, that's still a huge hurdle. And I think in order to drive mass adoption, and now I'm coming back to your question and also what you were talking about, we really need to solve this on-ramping and off-ramping problem. We really need to solve it. And it's not solved yet.
Do you think that it's an issue that's tied to regulation? You mentioned regulation, right? Like here in the US, it's no secret that we're dealing with a heavy regulatory environment right now, a lot of things going on. Is it the same in Germany?
Yeah, for sure. So it's heavily regulated, and I think the most critical part is not so much what we learned about like a month ago with FTX and the custody part. I think not too many companies are trading their customers' asset in such a bad way as FTX did. So I wouldn't say this is the biggest problem. I would say the biggest problem is to solve the AFC issue, right? I mean, I think it's interestingly not very much discussed on crypto Twitter, even though the crypto community is very, very friendly to Twitter and everything is being discussed. What I see working in a regulated company, and also Christoph, you'll be on the next panel, you can maybe also elaborate on that. The problem is if we receive funds in our custody wallet, we can see the on-chain trail, and we have to look into that. So we have a company, it could be Chainalysis, it could be Elliptic, they flag if there was some connection, maybe 70 hops away, maybe some transaction join, like on Bitcoin, from a coin join, from an Iranian sanctioned exchange, or from Tornado Cash that happened 5 years ago, still it's a red flag. So what happens if there's a red flag? We have to maybe make a seizure, we have to tell the BaFin and the regulator, and so it's a lot of work. So basically offering as a custodian, as a regulated company, on-chain wallets that really enable the end customer to transact online, it's a huge mess. And honestly, it is not that easy to solve. And I think this is the very problem why we don't have this mass adoption in many companies. You know, like I don't know how Fidelity does it, but there's a big broker in the European Union, Trade Republic also coming from Germany, also using our services on the banking side, and they offer crypto, but with closed wallets. And I would say, Johnny, you wouldn't say that's crypto, right? It's just an IOU against the custodian.
It's a game token.
Yeah.
It's a game token.
Exactly.
So, I mean, definitely ripe for opportunity for people building solutions in that space. And, you know, there's builders in this room that I'm hoping are going to tackle that. We've come a long way, right? Decentralization has opened up new opportunities, incredible things for us, but we still have a long way to go, right? And Gianni, recently you had a situation that's near and dear to both of our hearts because of our family background. Totally unjustifiable in terms of an action that OpenSea took personally on you and one of your businesses. Care to share about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of piggybacking on that regulation thing. We need regulation to protect all of us as consumers, but at the same time, it also, the overregulation is messing with a lot of people in this world that have no recourse. And in particular, you know, I might be one that says no regulation and whatever, but I do understand it's necessary. But for people, for example, in Cuba, right? Our families, our parents are from Cuba. We were born here. We are, you know, sons and daughters of immigrants. And during the pandemic, I started seeing in clubhouses and whatnot, someone from Cuba that wanted to mint an NFT. And they couldn't get Ethereum. So somebody in Clubhouse sent them the Ethereum. They minted their first NFT, and I thought, oh my God, it's happening. Cuba is like waking up to blockchain. There has always been something there, but this could be like the start of it. I always knew that having some kind of interaction in a cultural way with art and other things that people can identify with would be like the stepping stone. So I jumped in, and there was actually hundreds of Cubans that were minting these NFTs. These are people that have studied to the top of their game in art. You know, it's one of the few professions that is not like, you know, where the government's saying, give me some money or give me whatever. They're independent, right? And so in the span of a couple months after I met this individual, we amassed more than 100 different Cuban artists. I set up a website called nftcuba.art, and we started, you know, showcasing their work and doing all these different things. And we had one project called La Cafetera Project, where I would curate one artist, pay for the mint, because at the time it was like $200 or $300, and using a company called Foundation, it would split the proceeds to the artist and to the wallet that was for this entity. It was not for me, and it worked great. Now, fast forward, the company called OpenSea, which is one of, you know, the biggest marketplaces. It's an American company, and we understand they want to be safe. They want to comply with regulation. Started systematically delisting Cuban artists' profiles. Now, that's disheartening. A country where the people are already censored, they're already persecuted. Now, an American entity is also doing the same thing for an NFT. Now, we think it's art, but everybody else may think it's crypto or financial something or other. When I can literally create an NFT for cents and send it to someone, doesn't matter. But because it's a regulated thing or slightly regulated thing, it becomes an issue. So systematically they started delisting, and they delisted NFT Cuba from an American citizen who's only done work in the United States. They don't know who I am, they don't know what it was, but they delisted it. And that's disheartening, right? And I wanted, you know, the commerce thing and everything is very important, but people, what you have to realize that crypto is a way for these countries to interact with the world when they've never been able to interact with the world ever before. And it was very hurtful to see that happen, but the beautiful thing about blockchain is that once you do it, it's an immutable ledger. It cannot be censored. So on Rarible and on Foundation, the artwork is still there. The artist still has the right to say that he did it, that she did it, that person that owns it. Some people are saying, my NFT got delisted that I bought from NFT Cube or from the NFT Cube. No, go to this other website. You can see it. And I end with this, it's not about commerce or none, but it's a very important topic. A Cuban artist said that he said it in an interview, and this is like to my heart, the power of what blockchain is. He said, I don't need to ask permission to do something on the blockchain. We do have to ask for permission to do some things, right, to deal with our countries, but he doesn't need to ask permission. He can just do it. And he feels a sense of freedom in order to post these NFTs and get it out to the world, especially since some of the stuff he posts is kind of political and anti-governmental, right? So I don't know, hopefully decentralization will solve it. I hope regulation allows people that are not part of the government in Cuba to participate with us and be able to buy NFTs and crypto and interact in a way that they're not being subjugated to the whims of like 10 or 15 or 100 people in the government. That's hopefully maybe we get there and we don't have to sanction a whole group of people.
And billions of people, right? Because as much as we're involved in this space day to day, and as many NFTs as we own or crypto that we buy, we're still a tiny ecosystem, right? Like if you look at the amount of active wallets on MetaMask or how many people are minting or buying NFTs every day, it's tiny. And I know people joke around on Twitter sometimes, it's like, oh, there's only 300 of us left here on Twitter, like, crypto Twitter or NFT Twitter. Sometimes it feels that way. But I think that the more people that come into the ecosystem, the more people that start asking questions, pushing back a little bit, asking why, asking how we can improve, I think that's where we start to make great strides in Web3 and NFTs. And that leads me to you, Michelle. You've made it your life's work to onboard people into this space, to educate them. One of my fondest memories, and I don't think I've shared this with you personally, but one of my fondest memories of being in this space was the day that you launched Tuttle Tribe. You launched Tuttle Tribe in a way that I hadn't seen any other project do. You did it live. You did it in real life, a couple of miles from here, maybe a mile from here. And you brought together, at an art gallery, at the premier art gallery here in Miami, you brought together this incredible community of people who had never had a wallet, never bought an NFT, but they wanted to learn, they wanted to be engaged. And the memory for me was helping one of our Tuttle Tribe members set up their wallet for the very first time and watch her face light up. And since then, I know that she's gone on to buy several hundred NFTs and is an active participant in the space. So what are your views on how we can all support missions like yours? What are you doing personally to help onboard people, and where do you see that as a community we can help?
Thank you so much for sharing that memory and gave me all the chills to relive that. Because I think right now I feel excited and there's a lot of energy and we're pushing forward. But I actually think the overwhelming feeling is a little bit of concern and fear, because I worry that we are on the precipice of making the same mistakes that we have in the past. So sometimes it feels like companies that are building in Web3 and building in blockchain, they're like on a sprint to the finish line. They're like, we're gonna go this way. It's like, wait a second, we are completely forgetting this entire 99.9995% of the population that is not using your technology yet. And if we do not start thinking about them and taking them more seriously and engaging with them and speaking with them more, we are going to repeat the same patterns that we've seen in the past. And when I refer to the same patterns, one example I will give is crash test dummies. So in the United States, various car manufacturers were testing the safety of cars using crash test dummies. The team of folks who were building those crash test dummies were all males. So guess what they did? They sized the body parts of those crash test dummies to other males. And then what happened when those cars went on the line and the airbags went off? Women started dying in multiples that were unreal. And then what happened? Women who own purchasing power, who own decision making around what cars their husbands are going to buy, stopped buying those types of cars. So if we do not start engaging the groups that are representative of who's going to use this technology, we're not really going to have like a future of Web3. And what I'll say on top of that is it is really challenging sometimes to find the support. Right, so I appreciate so much you sharing that memory and that moment in person of that live mint. But you know what? Educating people in person, it's very challenging to scale. It's not as sexy as the decentralized exchange that's going to move this many billions in currencies, but it is way more important. And if we don't start paying more attention, putting more capital into those places in those ways, again, we're gonna, see this problem repeated. And the last piece I'll say is just like about the actual in-person education. And this kind of goes back to what you were sharing, Lena, about the launch of your collection is people may be excited about a technology, but there is a lot of reticence if you have not actually experienced something for the first time. And the way that people learn brand new models, brand new cognition requires doing things. So actually listening to podcasts and watching YouTube videos only retains 20 to 30% of the knowledge that you're getting. Being able to do something hands-on is when you get into that 70% retention, and actually the highest level of retention rates come when folks are teaching other people. And that, again, occurs in person, and that is much harder to scale. But if we want people to understand the core components of the technology to solve some of the UX and UI experiences that they have, they need to do it in person. And sometimes that's not as sexy and not as scalable, but it is arguably more important.
Thank you for that. And thank you for all the work that you're doing in onboarding people. So we've got a few minutes left. Want to do kind of a quick lightning round with everybody. We'll come this way, and then I don't know how we're doing on time. I think you're great. We're good? All right. So since you're holding the mic, Michelle, I'll start with you. First question for you is, what are you most excited about in the next 2 to 3 months in this space?
Oh, I don't have my rapid fire on that. What am I most excited about the next 2 or 3 months? Well, it's Women's History Month, and we are doing a really exciting campaign that is going to launch in March. And then we do kick off Miami Tech Month, and all of the energy around Web3. I think we see that kick up again in the next couple months. Awesome. And then you've heard me, wait, one more. Mm-hmm. You've heard me say that NFTs are the gateway drug to Web3. I think it's been like that for a lot of us. What was your first NFT? So I was actually gifted my first NFT. You know what? Right here, outside of this building, last September, Nabil Charania gifted me. It was some dead skull thing. Like it was a obituary in obits. That's what it was. Nice. Yeah. Lena, how about you? What are you most excited about in the next couple months?
Yeah, definitely how my new collection, the digital product, how is it going? So how is the feedback? How are they adapting it? And yes, that's the most exciting thing. And your first NFT? It was a Boss Beauty because I was looking like 1.5 years ago, for a woman, a woman NFT project, and that was my first one. Yeah. Beautiful. Julian, how about you? What are you most excited about in the next couple months?
So I'm the infrastructure guy here, so I must say the Shanghai update on Ethereum blockchain, sorry for Solana, but the release of staked ETH, I think that's amazingly important, also part of the merge, and infrastructure is so important to have all these great use cases. And your first NFT? Oh, I think that was either something on Magic Eden, like a Sol Mum, or it was a Bonfida, so here again, from Solana, a Bonfida name or something, yeah. Beautiful. G, what about you?
I like to say that at some point NFTs will be, the word NFT will be irrelevant, right? It'll be like MP3s where we don't talk about MP3s anymore, but I remember collecting MP3s.
We had MP3 players.
Yes.
We had Wave players.
And Napster and stealing music and all those things, right? So at some point it's gonna go away, but what's more interesting to me and the future is the interoperability between things. So like if I have an NFT of like an ape, and you make an NFT of clothing or a weapon or something where we can start collaborating together with those NFTs, but in such a way that we can do it easily. Like, that's the future that I see. And as far as my first, I don't remember, to be honest with you. I think I minted something. It was probably really bad.
But there is a tie-in. I've known Gianni for 35 years as well, so we're old friends. There is a tie-in to your Cuba story and how you came across what I would consider to be one of your most valuable NFTs.
Yes. So that guy that I bought the NFT from Cuba, he was all excited. And this is pretty amazing story. He jumps in and he says on chat, he's like, Gianni, I'm in this clubhouse and there's all these people with these monkey faces coming in and they're really cool. And I'm like, you know what, let me check this out. And I'm like looking at them and I'm like, oh, there's one with a guayabera and there's another one with a cigar. Well, I can't buy that one because it's too expensive. It was like $500. And so I bought one just to hang out, just to like have the experience with him. And to be honest, you know, this is a Cuban guy who probably makes $300 a week or something.
Who probably has worse internet access than you.
Than anybody. And this guy at some point had bought an ape or two and sold, and you know, now is living in Spain, by the way. So, so I got one of those too. But you know, it's now not worth that much, but it's still worth quite a bit.
Yeah, it's doing great, I would say.
Yeah. And so what about you? What about you? What are you most excited about? And what was your first NFT? This guy has like, by the way, like more than 1,000-something NFTs.
Yeah, so I drink my own Kool-Aid. I write an update every morning where I review projects that are going to mint for the day. And over the course of 380 of these updates, you can imagine I've bought a lot of NFTs, most of which are worth nothing. But it's been an amazing journey. My first NFT, though, was a cool cat. I bought on the 4th of July. I was at a family barbecue, Independence Day 2021. And a buddy of mine who I had bought domain names with, I come from the domain world, had tweeted, hey, everybody needs to go out and buy one of these cool cats. And I DM'd him and I was like, Shane, what is this? He's like, just shut up. You've got an ETH wallet. Just go buy this thing. I'm like, yeah, but what is it? It's just like, seriously, shut up. Just go buy it. So I did. I showed it to my family. Everybody laughed at me. They were like, what? Like, are they going to send you a real picture of this thing? I'm like, I don't know. But as soon as I got it in my hand, I realized what the power of blockchain was. And I had been in crypto. I had crypto before. But I didn't really get excited about blockchain until I actually saw the power that it did in terms of utility around like art licensing. My wife is a surface pattern designer and licenses a lot of her work. So we saw the power of it immediately. Kind of fast forward a little bit, I sold that cool cat that I bought for $212 on the 4th of July. End of September, just a few months later, for $27,000. So I was very, very, very happy about that.
And what are you most interested in looking forward to in the future of NFTs?
Honestly, it's the convergence of AI and Web3. I think we've all been kind of bombarded and flooded on our Twitter feeds and private chats about everything that's going on with ChatGPT and all of the advances in AI. And I think where the real power comes in is when you look at those two distinct technologies and start to merge them together, and that's where the magic starts to happen. So I'm very, very excited about that.
I was going to mention that too, but we've been talking about it too much.
Well, so with that, I appreciate all of you for joining me today. Thank you for the insight. Thank you for being here. Thank you for everybody who traveled in from Berlin. And I'm looking forward to doing this next year in Berlin.
Yes.
Or at some point.
Or in Berlin.
Then there's really only one interesting panel between you and happy hour, so you'll get through it. And you love your new friends, I understand, so keep talking to them. Now, my name is Busch, and I'm the co-organizer of the event. Thanks for coming. There's a lot of great people here, so if you haven't introduced yourself to new people yet, do that. And today, Christoph and I are going to talk about the opposite of success, which is learnings. And what we learned this year. And I'm going to wear one of my hats, which is investor, and I started investing in the crypto space in 2016. Got my first Bitcoin around 2014 when I bought a friend of mine pizza and he gave me a Bitcoin. True story, it was worth 70 euros at the time. And this year we thought it'd be good to talk about things we learned in this crazy market. So without further ado, Christoph, who started a company and is shutting down. If you want a free t-shirt, December 31st is your last chance. Take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Christian. So I'm Christoph. Nice to meet you all here. And to talk about failure and what we learned from failure. It's also totally okay to talk about an unsuccessful path. We are in a bear market year, so not everybody is going to make it. Last year we thought everybody's going to make it. This year we find out not actually everybody does. And so I'm the CFO of Nuri. We are still around until the end of December, but we are right now winding down a business. We are not ending in chaos. All of our customers can withdraw their funds right now. We keep the app alive until the end of the month. We remind customers to withdraw, but yeah, in an orderly fashion and in a mostly responsible way as possible. We give our customers the opportunity now to move on, unfortunately, to another service. We have been, so what was the actual business? We have been the thing Julian discussed before, what is so desperately needed, on and off ramping. But on and off ramping is a hard and regulated business. It's a cost-intensive business, and even we solved definitely a problem in the space, but that sometimes also means you cannot be successful if you monetize it not more than your cost structure is. And our cost structure was high, and monetization is also sometimes limited, again, especially in a bear market year, when the traction is not so great, and then, on the other hand, fundraising is not working. You cannot close the gap by external funds, and that means you go out of business. That's just natural. And so what is my top one learning? We have brought here, both of us have brought our top 3 learnings. Let me start with my top 1 learning here. I think we excluded the thought of counterparty risk. We are a CeFi service. We work with other CeFi services. And one of them was Celsius. I think some of you in the room will have heard of Celsius. I think FTX will be overshadowing Celsius massively. But still, this is a service which we brokered our customers to because they could buy Bitcoin with us. Again, we did the on-ramping. They could earn on the Bitcoin. And it was a neat integration for us. It was easy. They had an API. So we went the easy route to integrate a service and make it available for our customers. And I am a risk manager by training. So I worked in a bank as a risk manager. Counterparty risk was like my first job I had. And why did we still go down that route and were not more careful? And so for me, the point was when the space exploded so much and valuations went up so much, I personally assumed Celsius needs to be long on crypto. So when the valuations go up so much, they are sitting on the back of crypto, and their equity and their buffer increases by that. So I thought they will be more resilient than they actually have been. And that was a mistake. That was just a wrong assumption. Big learning again. Even when you think your counterparty is strong, there's still a huge counterparty risk.
All right, number 1. Number 2, there is no free lunch. I learned this multiple times this year. And who signed up for one of those 8% plus interest offers in crypto this year? Okay, most of you are smarter than me. So I did sign up for several of them. There was one called Anchor, for example, that better known as Luna. And I did make 12% or 16% or something like that for a while. And then all of a sudden, a chunk of that money was just gone. So no free lunch in crypto. Next.
Yeah.
Yeah. Handing them out at the exit.
So another one, which I definitely want to share here, also with perhaps some other startups and founders in the space. We have been VC funded. That is great because you have strong partners. They bring a great network. They see a lot of other businesses, so they can tell you about best practices, and you definitely learn a lot, and it helps you to scale your business in a really good way. But it also means that you have partners on the table which are part of the governance of your company. And we raised over 50 million. That means you have significantly venture capital in and strong investors. And they obviously diversify on their fund level. So they make several bets, and they only need some of them to be successful, but very successful. So what they obviously do is they try to drive you into high leverage of potential risk and reward. And yeah, there's only a limited amount you can counter that effect. and I will come to in my last point why this matters. But so two sides of a medal. When we talk about VC funding, be careful about it. It may be one of the things you shouldn't consider.
And I thought VCs were your friends. My next one is no alpha in crypto. So this is, so on the way up, everyone's doing great, right? And especially if you're levered, you're doing really well. On the way down, all of a sudden, everyone performs the same. So I know there's a bunch of fund managers in the room, so no personal offense, but I invested in several funds, and I've seen performance data for probably a dozen or 24 crypto funds in the last 3 months, and everyone is down about as much as Ethereum or Bitcoin. So if you want to have exposure to the market, buy Ethereum or Bitcoin, put it on your ledger, just keep it in a safe place, don't forget that passphrase, and be done with it. Next.
Yeah, last one from my side. In a startup, focus is everything. Everybody will always tell you that. Have the right focus. And right focus comes from doing a bet. You need to bet on something, obviously on an adverse future scenario, so otherwise everybody else would be doing it, could not be successful with the limited resources. So you need to take a bet, and we took one. In 2021, we rebranded from Bitwala to Nuri. Again, 2021, if you remember, crypto finally crossed the chasm. The mainstream media was talking about it, your friends talked about it, everybody talked about it. And we said, Bitwala, that's a very niche brand. Let's have something which appeals to a more diverse target group. We want to also bring in a more diverse target audience. And we rebranded to Nuri, and that took a lot of focus with the assumption that basically on this wider target audience, we will be growing into a stronger and broader environment. And it would be a great foundation to continue the business. But it was the wrong bet, because with the bear market which kicked in, obviously now it would be way more valuable to be more profitable on a more niche target audience and not go so wide. And so we prepared ourselves for the exact wrong environment, and we made a bet. It was the wrong bet, and we spent a lot of our resources and focus on that. But that happens. That's startup business, and you need to take a bet, and I don't feel too bad about it because that is what we do. But sometimes it means that you go out of business.
That happens. My last one is in the last 24 months, all these new funds and investment products that were called market neutral popped up. This sounds like, for people from the financial world, sounds like hedge funds way back when. And it turns out that even though they're called market neutral, they weren't market neutral, and maybe they're not down as much as Ethereum, but regardless of that, they're down. So the big takeaway for me from this year is got to be very humble in these markets. Financial history repeats itself, and stick to the basics, right? Maybe don't rebrand your company to sound like a fancy piece of sushi. Buy Bitcoin and Ethereum, and put it on your ledger and be done with it. That's it. If you want to share, if anyone wants to share a failure story of the year, feel free, because those are fun. Otherwise, we're going to finish it up and move to the last panel.
Or if somebody has a question, I think we really jumped through the points.
Yeah, somebody has a question or comment, feel free.
Want to poke us and on what we did and what we didn't.
Would you, going back and looking at it, would you rebrand again?
With the knowledge of the time when we did it, yes. At the time, it was the right decision and it was really like also creating something which, everything is Binance, Bitpanda, Bitwala, and we have been Bitwala, and really to say, come on, now this is the time. We want to really bring also different people, a more diverse crowd into crypto, and getting them in touch with it, a more friendly, more welcoming brand. And look it up online. Like we not only talk about the name Nuri here, we changed everything. We were white and blue, like every other finance app. We were blue-white, yeah. And then with Nuri, really created like visuals which were very appealing and made this younger and again just wider and more welcoming than the typical finance app.
I'm a founder of the Web3 space and I'm talking to a lot of venture capital firms. And what I keep finding, and I think we saw this in FTX, are the VCs really that knowledgeable about the space? Because one of their first questions is always, who's investing? And, right? And so I feel like it's very much follow the leader. And when I have conversations with them, and I've been in since 2016, so I've been through a lot. And it's just, what is your feeling in the VC space? Do they really understand the technology? Do they understand how everything works?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's one missing actually here, which I think is nobody knows anything. I think there are some very smart VCs who really understand the space, but you can probably count them on two hands. A lot of them are just trend followers, and they invested, FTX, right? A lot of people invested in FTX because they missed out on Coinbase, and they wanted to have an exchange bet. And but you raised 50 million from them. So what's your take?
I want to defend a little bit the VCs in that regard, because again, they have a broad portfolio. They invest in whatever, health tech, AI, and all of these topics are super complicated and hard to get. And so as an investor, I think we cannot assume that they understand all of these business models and products in depth. And they need on the fund level to make a certain diversification and allocation rather based on financial decisions than the actual underlying technology and really massively understanding that. Obviously, the more they understand, the more it's fun to talk about it and feel engaged, and getting their advice is more valuable. But I have an understanding if somebody is rather looking at the KPIs, looking at the team, and making the decision on that, and say, hey, if the team is so great, they will know what they do. And what I also see very critically is this herd psychology thing. So, if these other funds are invested, then I should also be. Or like this other fund invested in this wallet app, I should invest in that wallet app. It's like why everybody invested in scooter companies. Like, do we need so many scooters out there on the street? I think not.
Christoph, what's next for you?
That is the question I get the most.
Web 3 or you're going to go to Web 2?
May I tell an anecdote? It's
Web
not,
5.
I have an anecdote there, and it takes a minute, so follow me. So my first reaction after when we went out of business was like, oh, come on, I'm in banking since I started my professional career. Banking, crypto, always the same. And will I, in 10 years, look back at this opportunity and say, hey, this was perhaps the time to actually move to a different sector? And I was in touch for a CFO role in a retail sneaker business. They have like e-commerce, but also even some shops, physical shops. But they also have a small metaverse NFT angle, a little bit like Lena has. But it's not on daily business, really critical for them right now. So, but hey, this is maybe an opportunity to really look beyond the horizon and do something else. And then I had a coffee with a really good friend who is like reading people very, very strongly. And I told him, and I said, but Christoph, what about your crypto passion? And you see, I'm a pretty passionate and sold person on this. And I said, yeah, it just stays my hobby, and it will be great to go to some meetups sometimes and do this besides my job. I said, Christoph, are you crazy? You can work for your hobby and you consider to move out to a different sector. This is a privilege to work for something which is your hobby and your passion. And so obviously I will stay in the sector, and we'll have like from blockchain-based finance to crypto, Web3. There's a range, and I'm up for everything.
Great. All right, thank you so much. So we're getting to...
Thanks for joining the graveyard shift. This is usually the worst panel of the day because everybody wants to go to the happy hour. But we have a great panel here, and I'm going to learn something. So I hope you're going to learn something. So jumping in, we'll do quick intros. We have an interesting mix here of a lawyer who is going to enlighten us, and several entrepreneurs. And first thing is introduce yourself briefly, say whether you're more into CeFi or DeFi, and then we're going to have a fun discussion. All right.
Shall I kick it off? Yeah, thanks for having me. Martin Consul, founder of Centrifuge. It's not my first startup, so I really started in the, even most likely legacy on-premise software space, did SaaS and FinTech after, and now in crypto, so really kind of, know how it evolved. And what we're doing now with Centrifuge is decentralizing credit. So basically making the access to money, you mentioned Cuba, to actually also the unbanked or the underbanked accessible, and exactly in the same fashion as maybe the Volkswagens, the Googles have access to capital markets.
And real-world assets, real-world lending as of today, right?
I didn't want to mention it. It's a little bit under this RWA, real-world asset brand. Most likely, I don't know how much that tells you. So bankers laugh about it. RWA for them means risk-weighted asset. But anyhow, that's how the crypto bubble calls what everyone else called just an asset.
Hi, I'm Carly Howard. I'm a lawyer. I've been in the crypto space exclusively since 2017. Before that, I was in TradFi with big law firms, big banks, and then family office. I have been living in Berlin for the past 5 years, and I just moved to Miami 3 months ago. So I did go to law school here, so I feel kind of like I'm coming home, and also it's a new city completely, so it's really great. But I'm going back and forth between Miami and Berlin still. So I work with the global law firm K&L Gates. We have offices all over the world, including Berlin, and I focus on cross-border jurisdictional, regulatory, and practical issues for funds, family offices, and projects launching tokens in the crypto space.
Hello everybody, I'm Chris, based out of Berlin. I'm the co-founder and co-CEO of Finoa. Maybe jumping straight to your question, Christian, are we CeFi or DeFi? So we are what the market calls a crypto custodian. We offer institutional grade custody as well as staking, as well as also liquidity. I think if you look at what a custody provider typically is, they're looked as CeFi players, but I think what we really do is we want to be different, and our aim, our goal is rather to bring institutions into the DeFi sector. But indeed, coming from, and Julian mentioned that in the previous panel, it's like helping institutions, because I mean we are purely B2B, so serving a lot of VCs, hedge funds, family offices, and so on and so on. We are helping them to get into DeFi, but this basically out of a secure, we are regulated in Germany, out of a secure and regulated interface, and offering basically all the benefits which decentralization and Web3 offers.
Hi, I'm Patrick. I'm a director for EU strategy and policy for Circle, an American company working in Europe, based in Berlin, Germany. And I'm pretty impressed by Miami, I have to say. I came here with zero expectations. Just thought it's, a bunch of skyscrapers lined up very close to the sea. And it's great. People seem so free and open and honest. So, Carly, if I stay here for another 2 or 3 weeks, maybe I just follow your lead.
You're welcome to.
Circle is a global financial technology firm that basically enables companies to use the power of blockchains and so-called stablecoins for payments and treasury and other financial services. Circle is the sole issuer of USDC that most of you may know. It's the second largest stablecoin in the market. And Circle has also recently launched a euro-denominated stablecoin called Eurocoin. And it's a centralized company, but most of the use cases it currently powers are decentralized use cases, so it sits in between of CeFi and DeFi.
All right, I'm Peter, I'm CTO and co-founder at Unstoppable Finance, and we're building a non-custodial wallet called Ultimate, which is a Solana wallet, so therefore it's great to be here at the Solana space, and you can download it right away. I placed some QR codes at the cookie table and at the entrance table over there, so therefore please check it out. We want to bring DeFi to the masses, and how are we doing it? We definitely see many people facing the usability issue, it still requires applications that are really easy to use and that onboard new customers to the DeFi world. And additionally, we do a lot of education, especially also on the political level in Europe and in Germany. So yeah, talking to the members of the parliament and like at different organizations, really explaining also the opportunity of DeFi. We might come to that in that panel as well. But yeah, so it's and therefore, so we really have that long-term mission to yeah, make DeFi the new financial service infrastructure of the future. To the question, CeFi or DeFi, I think I'm everything a little bit because so originally I'm a software developer and founded a software development company out of university, sold it, came to Berlin and joined a company builder as a CTO. And this company builder was building fintech companies, so that was my segue into finance and into fintech. And we built a few prototypes. One of them that we built was the one of Solaris Bank, so where Julian Grigo, like from the previous panel, is working. So I'm one of the co-founders of that, and I was the CTO over there, which was exciting because I never worked in a bank before, and so I was able to co-found one. Joined as the 5th employee, left after 3.5 years. There were already 300 employees, half of them in tech. So therefore, I really had to learn finance from the scratch. Back in the days, I was reading more law texts than code because when building and running a bank really means to understand what's going on and what you have to comply with. So therefore, those were very learningful years. But over there, I stumbled over also cryptocurrencies and blockchain. If people can have their bank in their pocket, so why are we still continue building a bank? So that was my kind of research thesis. I found out that there's also like a bridge in between, so you need to onboard money into the crypto space. So we provide an infrastructure for exchanges, for example. Also nowadays providing the KYC process for Coinbase Germany. So in the end, so there's this mix in between, which is CeFi. So in the end, I learned CeFi from the scratch. But also then after like a position at a stock exchange company in Germany where we built a digital asset exchange from zero. That was the managing director there, which was also CeFi. We saw the summer of DeFi happening, and in the end, so if you're in crypto long term and you really believe into building like the best financial service infrastructure of the world, then you have to be with all your knees and toes into this, and therefore we started Unstoppable Finance.
Thank you. So I think I'll summarize this in one word: convergence. So it sounds like everyone here, except for Carly, who's in LeFi, legal finance, everyone here is somewhere between CeFi and DeFi, and it feels like that's where the space is going. So before we go deeper into that, actually, Carly, if you don't mind, I'll ask you to give like a very brief 60 seconds on each location summary of where's regulation right now. You can take 120 if you want.
Sure. I actually think I'll answer this by talking about what the climate is for regulation in the EU versus the US, because the talking points are very different. When I talk to people in the EU, when I look at social media, when I attend events in Europe, what I hear is we need regulation, good regulation, strong regulation. This will fix our problems. And it seems to be very rarely challenged, at least not in public. Very different in the US. What we're hearing here is you can't stop bad actors, Bernie Madoff being the example that is pulled out of the hat most often, or regulation doesn't stop crime, KYC AML being pointed to as something that doesn't work. And so we're hearing a narrative that we should slow down on regulation in the US, we shouldn't pass bad regulation, we shouldn't pass anything too quickly because it'll just make the problem worse. We also have an issue in the US where we have two regulatory bodies that are vying for power here. We've got the SEC and the CFTC that are going head to head and they're each wanting to have the final say on certain aspects of crypto regulation, and so it's hard to wrangle those cats. Versus in Europe, where the regulatory bodies are used to cooperating in this way more often, we now have MiCA, or Micah. Yeah, depending on how you pronounce it. Either way you pronounce it. It's a very robust piece of legislation that I'll let the guys from Europe talk about the specifics of it, but it is getting further in this one piece of legislation than we've been able to get in the US this entire time. So I would sum those two areas up as feeling very, very different. And you can see it in everything from the actual legislation and the hearings to social media.
Thank you. That was a good summary. Micah. One thing that I'm curious about, and both perspectives, US, Europe, doesn't really matter, is so how do we get adoption of CeFi, DeFi, whatever these new products are? How do we get adoption up? You touched on, although you actually didn't mention it in your spiel, real world assets moving onto the blockchain, which personally I'm excited about because I like real estate a lot. Your little clap of hands here. But here, you guys are all really smart guys. How do we get the next 50 million people, or let's start with a humble goal, 5 million for Q1 next year. How do we get people into this? Does it have to feel so crypto? Does it have to be so mysterious? Or what is the on-ramp that gets people going? Because PFPs we heard before are over. These guys are still flipping their apes, but they're over. So what comes next? Peter.
Well, I do a start. So like I mentioned already, I think there's first of all the usability topic. So because DeFi kind of is built from techies for techies, and like there's a lot of blockchain lingo in there, and like imagine people are just like sitting in a car and just like putting the key and then they can drive because like every interface of a car is the same, and it's just self-explanatory. If you once like 20 years ago made a driver license, and I think that's the opposite in crypto right now. It's like so therefore you need to produce easier to use products. And I think also when looking or comparing with traditional finance, so I think nobody, for example here in the US, if you download Robinhood and use it, nobody knows what's going on in the background. Yeah, so that there is whatever Citadel and payment for order flow, blah 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 blah. So nobody knows. It's the same in Germany, that there's like a centralized custodian and so on, and their name, and so nobody would know because it's like hidden in the interface. And I think we need to build products which really abstract from the technology and just like deliver a value to the people. And I think this is then also where it continues to kind of also like slowly adopt assets beyond crypto. So for example, in the real world, and offering financial services that like more people in the world really matter. And maybe one third point, I would say, it's also to be more including, because I think the DeFi community is like very, very, very deep. And has their own lingo and so on and so forth. And I see it with my friends who are not in crypto. They somehow also feel a little bit like pushed away from lots of the wording and attitude and so on. And I think we need to become more inclusive, also just like to take the normies with their hands and guide them into the space.
Good answer. And actually, Patrick, question for you. I don't know whether you can disclose this or not, but I'm curious. How many people in the world use stablecoins or use your stablecoin?
Yeah, I mean, I personally think that stablecoins so far are by far the product within the broader crypto ecosystem that have the best product market fit so far. You have tens of millions of people around the world that use stablecoins on a daily basis for savings, for payments, depending on their own circumstance. So we're at Circle, we have a current market capitalization of $45 billion for USDC. Last year, USDC has processed, I think, 7 trillion worth of transactions for both individuals and companies. So that's why stablecoins as a product are super successful at the moment. I think what we need to do, I mean, Peter mentioned one super important aspect, usability, UX is super important, abstract away those crypto concepts of gas costs, of seed phrases, of, I think, I mean, Peter mentioned it. On top of that, I would say still the infrastructure layer needs a little bit more work and innovation. If you look at, for example, Solana Pay here, we can use Solana Pay to buy some merch, some very cool Solana merch, by the way. And you can do that. That is also powered by USDC Solana Pay. The problem here, compared to traditional payments, for example, is that every single payment is just transparent. For everyone, it's open and public to see for every single person and company in the world. And I don't think that that level of openness and transparency is fit for purpose for payments at scale. So the privacy aspect is one, I think, at the infrastructure layer that has to get better, and there are super interesting and exciting projects that are working on those issues. I think Aztec just announced a 100 million round today, and many others. The privacy aspect, scalability is still a problem, obviously, for especially everything that's happening on Ethereum, even if we are experiencing like lower gas fees today, thanks to the bear market. And the last aspect, and those are all interconnected, but I think regulation, and Carly touched on that, that's also a key point for mass adoption. We at Circle, we partner with all the big payments companies in the world, Visa, MasterCard, MoneyGram. We just announced today a new use case that is pushed actually by the UN Agency for Refugees that is using USDC for displaced Ukrainians and basically allowing Ukrainians to receive USDC on a Stellar wallet and cash out at 4,500 MoneyGram physical stores in Ukraine. So that's very exciting. But there are still hundreds of other companies that are waiting for stablecoins, for example, at the US federal level to get regulatory approval. In Europe with MiCA, that's going to be better, but I think, yeah, that's for many traditional financial companies, other retail companies, the regulatory uncertainty is still a big hurdle.
Okay, thank you. So we got current lead, stablecoins, tens of millions of users. What's NFTs at right now? Does anyone know?
The thing is, no one can know, because you only can know the addresses, but most of the time that's not a good proxy for users.
Okay, so stablecoins is in the lead right now. Martin, are you going to chop up some houses, tokenize them, and distribute them to everyone?
That's not what we are doing. So I mentioned already is a credit platform, but coming back to the question, how to actually kind of improve accelerate adoption. I think looking back to the very beginning, why Bitcoin was started, do not via my Bitcoin T-shirt here today, but that was actually happening exactly in the time of the last, or the one before the pandemic financial crisis, if you remember that, actually on the brinks of the banks and the bailouts. So that was really the Genesis block was minting a headline of the times, and that the banks are on brink and needs to be bailed out. And that is why it was created. You know, blockchain itself is most likely the most inefficient IT technology out there, and it doesn't make sense to build applications on the blockchain which are not permissionless, which not allow decentralized exchange of value, and which also not allow every participant to actually self-custody its assets. And that's what it brought in, you know. And coming back to the use cases, I think those use cases who can capture it and make it accessible, you mentioned Cuba and NFTs, really like it, they will help blockchain to succeed, you know. So if you look at the stable coins, there are people in countries suffering high inflation, and there, for no surprise, the adoption of blockchain is the highest. So Argentina, Turkey, you can name it, you know. We had on our platform suppliers who got their invoices financed and wanted to receive, typically is a real exception for a business, wanted to receive stablecoins. And the reason is that that was in this case a Malaysian supplier receiving stablecoins, US dollar-based stablecoins, and then having that locally exchanged in the local currency was something like 2 weeks faster, 2 weeks compared to traditional finance, 2 weeks faster and 10 times cheaper in fees, you know, and that was at a time where Ethereum was still expensive.
Thank you. Christopher, what do you think?
To what Patrick said, I think we have been talking a lot about adoption. I think especially if we talk about stable coins, what's really important is institutional adoption, and there also regulation comes into play, right? So a couple of anecdotes later, but what I think and what we also see in the business is that if you would offer your consumers, your customers to pay in stable coins, they would actually also embrace the technology even more, right? And I think if we talk about e-commerce stores, I mean, here in the US, you had Tesla offering to buy a car with a Bitcoin, and that basically brings adoption and like awareness of crypto, and then also the educational part, which Peter mentioned a bit. And I think what we see, and especially in that bear market, so for context, all of our customers, or let's say 95% of our customers, are sophisticated or professional investors. And the tokens which have seen the biggest inflow over the last year on our side were also actually stable coins, right? So they not only performed best due to the bear market, right, because they stayed stable, most of them at least. So good job on the Circle side, but also the inflow of stable coins becomes way more important. We serve a lot of Web3 companies like foundations, and they start to hold their treasury. We had that discussion yesterday evening. They start to hold their treasuries not in US dollar anymore, but in USDC. Some also in Tether, which I would not actually propose. But in that sense, companies need to start getting more familiar with holding crypto, and be it stable coins for, let's say, companies who are not in crypto for investment purposes, and then also the consumers will follow. And I think the growth hack then is like for us building financial infrastructure, being regulated. It's obviously between those two pillars, right? It's on the one hand side providing a secure but also easy to use infrastructure for companies to use, and I think the difference between Ultimate and us is basically we only focus on institutional investors, so in terms of governance requirements, security requirements, but also in the sense of white glove service requirements, like we are in a more private banking need, but want to build a decentralized technology angle. And the second thing is obviously with all the things coming up around centralized players this year going down, I think it's even more important to be regulated in a, let's say, trustworthy jurisdiction, but also show why, let's say, why you are different than other custodians. I mean, I'll give you one example. We are one of the very few custodians worldwide who don't store all customer assets in the so-called omnibus account, but we basically have for every customer segregated wallets. So each customer has a different Bitcoin address, which means that they have a native blockchain experience, meaning that they can look on-chain. Okay, my assets are still in that wallet. Nobody can move them except the customer can do it. And also very important, nowadays we get asked by a lot of our customers what happens in case of insolvency. Since it's segregated wallets, the customer does not have a claim against us in the sense of, okay, I have a claim for one Bitcoin and we have a liability, but it's rather that our service is safeguarding the private key, and there's no kind of monetary value in that sense where the customer has a liability against us, which means in the unlikely event of an insolvency, they don't fall into the insolvency estate, right? And I always like to compare that a little bit like with a vault business in the traditional financial system.
Okay, thank you. So I want to shift gears a little bit and talk more about people. So we have a bunch of founders on the panel, and we're in a bear market. Crypto is still new and hot, and we're in Miami. Most of you are based in Berlin. How do you think about building a crypto company from the perspective not just of regulatory, which is more of a back-end topic, but crypto companies ultimately consist of engineers and other people. How do you think about building those teams now? Are they centralized, decentralized? Are they in Berlin or in Miami or in Salt Lake City or wherever? How do you think about building that culture? And are these companies now virtual, or are they old school, everyone sits in an office?
Should I give it a start? Maybe completely different answers depending on the use case, I guess. So what worked for us was starting rather centralized, and then from there how the protocol emerged, starting to decentralize it, and at the very end, I believe we create digital ecosystems, and those digital ecosystems will, in its nature, decentralized people, so it will not, I think the structures we currently think in, if the companies and even in the DAO, individuals, etc. But I think the term of the DAO isn't really defined yet. I think of a DAO much more in something. Hey, in the future, it's actually a digital ecosystem where the token economics, so basically the economic model or the business case of an protocol, is actually bringing people together and make them successful or not. But that is the aligning factor. So for us, the decentralized credit market, everyone has experience in how credit works and would like to participate in that ecosystem. Doesn't matter if it's risk assessment for a specific asset class, how to underwrite an invoice, from an air condition traveling from China to the US, for example, someone who is able to underwrite or structure credit, etc., maybe today working in a bank behind closed doors, no one knows what's going on, can actually be with just its own or with other people, actually be acting on an ecosystem where they together form a global bank and a global network. Something we haven't seen before, and with this it's actually also all evolving. So we're trying our best in kind of supporting our emerging ecosystem and really strongly believe in self-managed organizations, agile organizations, and DAO structures. So it's really a very distributed team around the world. No one in Miami currently, but already, unfortunately, but we had one. I guess soon again, but really across the world, mainly in Europe and in the US currently, but also already Canada, New Zealand, in Asia, etc.
Right. Decentralized. Fairly decentralized.
Fairly, yeah.
Yeah, I have worked with fully decentralized projects. And that's not just the protocol, but everything up to the C-level management is attempting to be decentralized. It is hard. It is very hard. You want to start up a website or open a bank account for fiat for the one developer that you have to hire because nobody else does what that guy does and he's going to ask for fiat. There's things that you run into along the way. And by the way, that one developer you have to hire lives in a random country that nobody knows what the employment laws are there, right? So it is very, very hard. And I am a DeFi believer at heart. I got into this as close to a DeFi anarchist as you could possibly be as a lawyer. And I have come far center after working for some of these projects where even if the intent is there, even if the structure, DeFi doesn't mean lack of structure, by the way. Even if the structure is right, it is still very hard when you hit up against those practical barriers. So I think it's not binary. I don't think we have to be CeFi or DeFi. I think the focus should be on being transparent. It's not that it's decentralized in some kind of physical way that makes a project useful. I mean, if you're talking about nodes, it's a different kind of DeFi, but it's that it's transparent, it's open. That's what we should be focusing on versus DeFi, CeFi.
Actually, I had one more response to the previous question. So how we can bring DeFi to the masses? But I was waving, but you didn't see. So maybe let me add this one still here, because I think we also need to educate the public a little bit more. Because so one thing I'm always explaining also when advising the Ministry of Finance in Germany, because I'm one of the advisors over there, is that so if you compare traditional finance and decentralized finance with each other, there's one major difference, and it's the level of automation. Because so if you for example, nobody has used the 3 letters FTX in this panel so far, so therefore I'm doing it now. So what went wrong, like at FTX, or in Germany there was Wirecard, so like a DAX company which went bankrupt. So what went wrong there? In the end, in traditional finance, it's always about kind of regulating humans and processes, yeah, because humans come or get process descriptions and then execute processes, and then you have controls on controls, auditors control the controls on controls, and so on. And in the end, this is kind of like how people try to make sure, and regulators try to make sure that everything is handled the way people expect. And I think the major difference in DeFi is that it's not about like processes and people. It's about machines and code, because because in the end you can reach a really high level of automation if the whole financial service is offered by a smart contract that runs independently on chain and you can't change it anymore. And therefore, so like if you build it right and you do audits and so on and so forth, you can also give like a high degree of guarantees. And therefore, so I think so in the end, like FTX is like a more US based scandal. We have in Germany have our own ones with Wirecard, but I think so what everyone can do is like really explaining, so when talking to people outside crypto, so what really happened there, and that's in the end kind of like you can't trust people, but you can trust machines, and we don't need more regulation on the rules. We need more automation. So that's the one statement I wanted to make. But also in response to your question. So I'm not dogmatic, and so I learned in university a couple of decades back that form follows function, and when building a company, that you kind of come from the problem that you want to solve, and then you find the right organizational structure, and this can be like more virtual, less virtual, centralized, decentralized, having whatever a shop, don't having an office, working from home, and so on. This in the end kind of like this is the decision to make, and therefore also I know that in the DeFi community there's like a lot of discussion also around really being decentralized teams and so on, and it's like tagged on like every sentence of the builders, but I don't necessarily think that it's important, because you just want to build what you build and you find the right organization for that.
Still same question?
How are you building your organization?
How
local, not local?
So I think it's a question which we haven't mastered yet, to be very transparent. So to give some context, we have an office in Berlin, we have an office in Porto, in the north of Portugal. But I think I'm following what Peter said, right? It depends really what kind of organization you want to build. And I think we are regulated, so we have that what we call 3 lines of defense, basically, where people and processes are being watched, supervised also internally. And I think it's important that you have those structures in place before you go more and more decentralized. So we started during the pandemic, so we started decentralized, but we were a very small team which knew each other, which trusted each other. Then we went basically back, everybody in the office, and then we started to branch out, hire more remote, open a second office. And I think it's a lot about processes and finding the right people. What I figure out though also is that size really matters, right? So we were at the high 135, 140 people, and having this amount of people remote and not having like all the right, let's say, management structures and working processes in place can create a mess, especially for like junior people who come out of university, who have to be trained, who have to be guided, etc., etc. If we talk about our tech people, they can work remotely way more efficient than in the office. So I think it's like, it depends a little bit like what kind of structures you have in place, what kind of people you have. So what we have done by now is we have a hybrid model. So we have 2 offices, but we also have a lot of, let's say, remote people, and also encouraging that setup, because people shall work where they feel the most efficient, where they also feel the most productive. And then I think the management job, it's like really making sure that nobody is left behind, that we have transparency, but also accountability and ownership on a personal, individual level.
Yeah, I think most has been said, so I keep it short. Circle is obviously a decentralized company in the sense that everyone works remotely, everyone has the opportunity of going to co-working spaces, but from a governance perspective, it's obviously a traditionally governed and managed company. It wouldn't work otherwise at the current state of governance. We're a highly regulated company, highly compliant, have 40 billion to manage in a central reserve. That's another piece of infrastructure, by the way, that needs to get better for the next bull market. That, to be honest, that decentralized governance that we currently see for many DAOs and DeFis doesn't work at scale. There are so many obstacles there with regards to voting, token voting, with regards to efficiency. So that's another very exciting area, but at the moment it's not fit for purpose for big regulated financial companies like Circle.
All right. Thank you all. We're going to wrap this up with a last short question, and then I think it's time for happy hour. And the question is, in 10 words or less, what are you most excited about in crypto in 2023? And I'll start and I'll say the disappearance of the term NFT.
I most likely would need to admit why, because NFT, I think, is super important. We use them actually to represent a digital asset anyhow, or have a digital asset on-chain representing real assets. Anyhow, yeah, I think what I'm currently excited about the current bear market, because it's really a big filter. And I think we will see in the coming month and in 23 a lot of really good use cases who need proof to work. And one thing, and a second thing is most likely that all these crypto casino which has happened basically has shown the relevance of real DeFi and decentralization, and that also, I think, much more investors and much more, I think, companies looking at the space from the traditional, from the real world, also kind of considering the power of decentralization and the use cases around it.
What I'm excited about for 2023, interoperability, real-world assets, user experience. And it wouldn't hurt if we had less acronyms, too.
Very good. I would add the convergence of DeFi and regulation, and especially I'm very much looking forward to all those initiatives like Aave Arc, 1inch Pro, Compound Treasury, because I think that's really what will help basically bring institutions, but also bring retail people more into the DeFi sector, but enabling usability.
I would add global, cheap, instant, and interoperable payments powered by blockchain technology and stablecoins, and basically the frictionless exchange of value as the exchange of information today in the internet era.
I would also say real-world assets, but especially enabled through a lot of also regulatory developments that happen in Germany and in the European Union. For example, like there's a lot of countries launching digital securities laws, including also Germany. And there's the pilot regime like MTF, trading places on blockchain infrastructure, enabled by like a framework of the European Union. And I think, so starting from next year, we will see really blockchain and DeFi infrastructure being married with real-world assets and also like as a legal tender. And I think this will be the breakthrough then in the following years.
That's a wrap. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. So let's wrap it up, guys, before we get into a happy hour. So, actually we see a lot of shelves around here. And thank you so much for hosting the event here as well.
Thank you.
We got a little bit of a buddy bear. You can just, it's hopefully from, it's a buddy bear, it's a buddy bear.
No. This is Berlin. Yeah, this is the bear from Berlin, and you have it in huge sizes and smaller ones like this one, and different colors. And artists, famous artists, paint them. And this is one of them. And we would like to hand it to Solana.
Thank you.
Yeah, and maybe you make an NFT out of it, and you put it here. So this is our gift from Berlin, and this is also our thank you for everybody here in Miami, and also for our experts coming here. And we are going to invite you to come to Berlin next year, as Alex said. And we promise to do it in warm weather, so that you feel at home. So it will not be February or so later in the year. Yes. And yeah, so I'll give an applause to everybody who worked on this these panels, and yeah, for coming. And now just enjoy a little bit the gathering and having some more drinks, and have a nice evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah,
thank you.
Cheers. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So I can, if you want, I can put the
music,
down.
the Christmas music.
I can put the ProApp up.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.